Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Dirty Gaming and a new video on the channel going through the crit transition on the Lightning Strike Champion. I've got back from my break today, just grinded a bit to get enough currency to transition to a fairly basic crit version. So I farmed about 10 to 12 divines on the Ichimonji non-crit version and then crafted a few items to be able to switch to crit. There's still much more to do on the build, but just get into a crit version that's half decent, doubles your DPS, makes it so you don't have to keep using smite to get a damage buff, and just makes the gameplay more comfortable and gives you much better single target damage. So what I'll do is just go through what I've actually done to earn the currency. I wouldn't copy any of these trees. They're all super scuffed. So it's probably like 3 to 4 divines an hour, nothing spectacular because I'm combining stuff that probably shouldn't be combined. So most of my currencies come from destructive play. I'm just taking all the drop nodes along with destructive play. Then I've decided to throw in some strong boxes and for some reason harbingers. I don't know why, because it really does slow down the map. And I've maybe had 2 fracturing shards that aren't actually that valuable this league, and everything else has just been junk. And then I've also taken some nodes here just to make the lead mechanic a bit better in terms of the corpses that it drops. I haven't sold any of the corpses. I've crafted 1 item, and I'm basically just saving all the corpses up now to craft my claw. But I'm going to need a lot. There's some like less elemental resistances, it's very rare. And there's a few more that I'll either have to buy or grind for a long time to get. But filling up corpses, so hopefully it'll be maybe a few days before we can get a really good claw or an attempt at a good claw because it's not guaranteed. But my build now is good enough to farm comfortably. The same sort of strategies. I'm doing some essences on one tree. I've stupidly taken ritual on the other tree. And then I've got destructive play, which I'm doing at the moment because all of the stuff that comes from either that or the bosses sells pretty well and pretty quickly. So in terms of the build, I've got a claw here, which I went for throat stabber because it was about 20 chaos and a imperial claw was 3 to 4 divines for a fractured attack speed. And I want to craft my claw eventually anyway, so I don't want to go spending loads on a base. So with this, I got quite lucky with this craft. Ideally, I was looking for lightning damage, which I forced on with Essences of Wrath, and then either cold or lightning, and then a suffix to craft crit. As it happened, I rolled crit, so I could craft Elipen. It's not an amazing claw because it's missing the 3rd damage roll, but it's pretty good, and it cost me about a divine to craft. The shield was very easy to craft. I just bought a fractured elemental ailments roll. I needed it to be 33% or higher. These were about 15 chaos. I should have probably gone for an armor and evasion shield because I've got way more evasion than armor. And then all I've done is spam life until I've hit a good spell suppression roll. So I've used greed essences until I hit spell suppression, and then that's it, job done. The amulet, I purchased a fractured all attributes. This was a bit more expensive. I think this was 90C. I've then put some catalysts on it to get those attributes up even more. And then I've just used Essences of Scorn to get crit multi until I hit life. And then I've crafted non-channeling skills. The helmet is just a blizzard crown, and I've just used chaos resistance essences to craft it. The rings are the same rings I had before, but I've just recrafted them. These are both crafted in Harvest with Chaos. So it's 100 yellow life force to guarantee Chaos resistance. You just go until you get a ring that you're happy with. Ideally, this would have life, but because I'm using a Blizzard Crown and I don't use Inspiration, I have to have non-channeling skills on all of my items, which I've got here. And then the other ring is the same. It's a Fracture of Intelligence, and then I just spam Chaos in Harvest until I hit a decent ring. The gloves are the same I had before. Fracture of Resistances. Use Essences of Zeal for attack speed until you either roll a resistance and you craft life, or you hit life and you craft a resistance. And the boots are the same ones I had before. They are ailment avoidance boots. They are used so I no longer have to use Ancestral Vision because I noticed it's crazy expensive. So I sold mine for like 5 or 6 divines when I bought it for just over 1. And I don't want everyone else to have to buy one to be able to be ailment immune. So what you need is as high as you can get on your shield. So let's say 33%. You then need lesser Ichor on your implicit to get to 17, and then you would roll it with Essences of Loathing to get 30% or more, and that caps it ailment with this little wheel down here. And then that's it. We're just running a Perseverance belt as before, and then this time I've allocated Claws of the Falcon for some big crit multi. We've obviously put in a Diamond Flask because we've now gone crit, so it's my usual setup for a champion. It's a crit flask with crit, J flask with evasion, and then an armor flask and a quicksilver with attack speed and armor on either of them. And then just a corrupted bleeding life flask. The tree is where it changes. We've dropped our Ancestral Vision. We still have the Lethal Pride with 1 double damage. And then we've just obviously dropped all the sword nodes and our cluster jewels because we're not going to be stacking auras anymore. Taken the claw wheel up here. And then the clusters are settled for because it was the cheapest combination. I've gone for pressure points, basics of pain for crit. Gone Overshock, Storm Rider for power charges and much more shock. I bought all of these. This jewel was about 90C. This one I can't remember, maybe 60C. And the large cluster jewel, which is Disorientating Display, Overshock and Sadist, was about 110 Chaos. And that's kind of it. I'm still using Vile Pact because I don't have any regen, but it has caused me a death when you come across an enemy that you're not expecting, and it puts some sort of degen on you, it shreds you really quickly. So it's certainly not safe, but I think as long as you're attacking, Vile Pact is a massive boost to defenses. That's kind of it for the tree. I'll put the POB in the video description. In terms of DPS, it's about on par with the crit swap POB that I put in the main description. It's actually slightly less, but it's ample for what I want to do at the moment, and it easily allows me to farm currency in pretty much whatever mechanic I want to. The idea is to get this doing a bit more DPS, maybe a couple of million, and then we'll try out a T17 map and see how that goes. I don't expect to complete them very successfully because I suck at bossing, but you know, we'll go and give it a go. Maybe once we level to 96, we'll go and we'll try some T17s. I've done most of the bosses now. I still need to do the Feared because I haven't had a Cortex drop. And I've just been farming invitations and destructive play pretty much the entire time. And I've been pretty lucky in terms of drops. From Cirrus, I had a Thread of Hope medium, which was 6 divines. I had a div card for a double implicit unnatural instinct. That sold for 4 divines. And there's a couple of things here and there, like some awakened support gems that have sold for a div or 2. So I think overall I've probably made about 15 to 20 divines since league start. Put most of it into the build, and then we're sitting on 11 divines and 101 chaos. Last item I need to cover off is the body armor, because I actually crafted this in the graveyard. Wasn't looking for anything super exciting. So with the body armor, all you need is 4 of the 4 socket links, 1 of the 5 and 1 of the 6, and that guarantees you a 6 link of the armor of your choosing. What you can then do is put lots of extra defense mods, maybe 3 or 4 to get up to 200%. Less life, that means you're going to roll lots of armor and evasion and hopefully no life. And then I put lots of chaos in there. We didn't get chaos in the end. And resistances. The idea was to try and remove things that we don't really want. Any resistance is fine. And then spell suppression, because you can't make it less, even though you can't increase it, because you're lessening a lot of other mods, it gives that a chance to roll, and it did roll spell suppression. I wanted chaos resistance, but this is what I ended up with in the end. I'm not sure it's worth the craft because it's probably a couple of divines with all the corpses. And then the last step would have been adding plus 50 to the roll, so that you then can only roll the first few tiers of all of the mods. And I think I ended up with being able to only roll the top 2. So I've ended up with a decent chest, 30% quality, 1400 armor, 1600 evasion. Obviously, we can take the mastery for 15% life, suppression, resistances, and I can craft Fizz taken out. So it works out okay. It's nothing amazing. You could probably buy as good a chest for maybe the cost of the craft, but I couldn't really fail that craft. I was always going to get big armor and evasion as prefixes, and then we were always going to get some sort of resistances as suffixes, so it worked out pretty well. There's not really much more to go through. I'm going to try and figure out what gear we can graveyard craft on the build and what gear we're probably going to need to use fractured items or maybe even purchase the finished items. Apologies, my game crashed out. I have no idea why. It just froze and wouldn't move. But that's kind of it for the update. I just wanted to give people an overview of what I was doing once I'm back from holiday. And it is just, yeah, a simple crit transition. If you follow kind of this gearing guide, if you're still in the non-crit version, you are going to find yourself probably doubling your DPS. And dropping smite just feels much better. You don't have to use it every 7 seconds to keep your damage up. There have been quite a few gem swaps, which will be in the POB, because the skill operates totally differently. You can't use Leap Slam. We're not using swords anymore. You can't use smite if you wanted to anyway. So the new 6 link is Lightning Strike, Multi-Strike, Awakened Added Lightning, Nightblade, Volatility, and Trinity. We've got our auras, which we've now trimmed them down. It's just Determination, and then we're running a Grace and a Precision, and then our free Defiance banner. We keep our Life Tap Corrupted Fever set up to get Adrenaline. We swap our Mark to Assassin's Mark for extra crit. And then we swap our movement speed for Whirling Blades. because we no longer need the setup for Smite, I can now finally add Molten Shell in, which I hadn't done before. And so we've just got a Molten Shell on a caster and damage taken. The one issue I have is that I have very little mana. I've got 46, and my skills still use mana. Even with non-channeling everywhere, it's still 7 mana. I never run out, but you would have to have these on every single item for it not to feel really bad and for you not to need to find a reservation somewhere. So we'll go and do a very quick map showcase, and then we'll close out the video. And then probably the next video to come out might be a farming video if I can find something that makes decent money. But at the moment, all my trees are scuffed, so I wouldn't recommend you follow them. And then after that, it's hopefully going to be attempt 1 at grave crafting GG 6 mod T1 claw. That's going to be a few days because I need to not only buy the corpses, I need to figure out exactly how to craft it. And yeah, just keep collecting corpses along the way. So it might be a couple of days for that video. If there is anything you're interested in seeing a video on, let me know. I'm open to options because I'm not really sure what I want to do content-wise in the next week. So we're going to do a very quick El Hesbin map just with the destructive play sub. I'll probably skip the Harbinger because, yeah, I don't really know why I put them on to start with. So it's just an out and go. You don't really need to out them, to be honest. I'm just doing it for some extra map drops. Not got much here. So normally with destructive play, I'd probably clear the majority of the map just because you get more bosses, but I don't want to kind of keep you guys any longer than I need to. Oh, got a goal. Nice. Oh, those div cards. Oh, terrible. Come on, hurry up. I said I wouldn't do the Harbin and I do it anyway. Yep, absolutely nothing as expected. I'm sure with Scarabs it's good, but out can go, not very good. Oh, it's a big explosion. So we'll try and find the boss. There it is. All corpses, nice, and something's... That was an annoying few mods. Right, let's get out of here. So it's fairly simple. You just save your Vile Lightning Strikes up. And then, yeah, same playstyle as before. Really, there's not really any difference. You're just doing probably double to triple the damage that you would on the non-crit version. But obviously, we're weak into the league now, so we've got a chance to pick up some items that you probably couldn't afford at the beginning of the league. That's it for the video. Let's say more videos come in the future. If you've got any suggestions, leave them in the video description. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.